What's up, everybody? My name is Pharaoh, and welcome back to the Scripted Kingdom, where you can tune the fuck in as I tune the fuck in, period. Today, everybody, we are here to discuss Nosferatu, which just came out on Christmas. First of all, Merry Christmas to everybody. If you haven't seen my last podcast or listened to my last podcast, go check it out. I just ranked the top 10 Christmas movies ever made, in my opinion. So go check that video out, see what my top 10 was, see if your most favorite Christmas movie made it or not. Because some of the girls is mad at me. Some of the girls is mad at my list. So I just see if you're mad too. I guess you're just gonna have to be mad too. I don't know. But what we'll be talking about today is Nosferatu. So on Christmas Day, I didn't really have shit to do. I was chilling in my house and I was like, well, shit, Nosferatu premieres today. Let me go see it. Let me go check it out, see what it's about. Now, I had never seen a movie by Robert Eggers. That is the director of Nosferatu. He directed this movie and then also, what else? So, Robert Eggers has also directed The Witch, never seen it. The Lighthouse, never seen it. The Northman, never seen it. I will say all of these movies look like the same energy as Nosferatu, just off of judging a book by its cover. They all look like dark, quotations, horror-esque, but it's more so dark. Like this movie and then these other movies, they give me that dark energy. Like it's about a mythological situation, but it's a very dark mythological situation, and then he's making it into a movie. That's the energy I'm getting from these movies, no shade. And that's the energy I got from Nosferatu, which was very interesting because it's considered horror and it's definitely is in the horror genre, but when I'm watching it, it doesn't feel the same way as the typical slasher or the typical I don't know, just the typical horror movie. It doesn't necessarily feel the same to me. So I feel like there should be like a sub genre made. I'm a fan of sub genres. I really am. Like I'm a good fan of mixing genres, mixing them and making it horror comedy or da 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 da. Like, because some things it needs to be specified. It really does. This one, it says horror drama, which okay, that kind of explains why a lot of it was storytelling and not a lot of killing and shit. But I don't know. It just was like dark horror, which is weird because, like, of course, horror is dark. It's literally horror. But what I mean by that is it's like about a topic that's more dark and sinister. But then again, now that I'm saying sinister, I'm thinking of the movie Sinister, and is that dark horror? And it's like, ooh, where do you draw the lines? Because what I really mean is that because it's about Nosferatu, and because we're kind of learning more about him as a like a entity, it's a little bit less horror. No, now I'm talking myself out of it. It's just horror, isn't it? It's just horror with a story. It's just like a drama horror. It's literally a horror drama. Okay, well then never mind. I take it all back. Boom, we have it. It's a horror drama. A horror drama, and it's about Nosferatu, which is like a mythological tale. I don't even know what Nosferatu is. Let me look him up. Hold on. Hold on. And I did see that Robert Eggers thanked SpongeBob for introducing Nosferatu into the public.
Nosferatu!
And honestly, he's right because that's the only time I heard that name was from SpongeBob. But apparently he's something before that. Okay, when I Google an old movie called Nosferatu comes up. Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror is a 1922 silent German expressionist vampire film. Expressionist. I like that. Maybe that was the word I was looking for earlier. Like it's a movie, but it's like there's something else to this that's more than just horror. They call it horror fantasy, I guess. Oh my god, this image of Nosferatu is so similar to the image of Nosferatu from SpongeBob. It like literally is the same person, I think. I don't know. But anyways, I guess it was an original horror movie from back in the day about this vampire. That's very iconic of whoever directed this back in the day. He ate that up because he made a somewhat well-known name, I guess. I guess it's not Dracula, but similar. Anyways, so this movie, the 2024 version of Nosferatu, has a 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb. and it has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. So the girls are loving it. And shit, call me one of the girls. If you have me on Letterbox, you can see my like more immediate written down review. It's a little bit more, I don't know how to say it. It's a little bit more neat and nice when you see it written down. So if some of y'all prefer that, definitely add me on Letterbox. The link is going to be in the description because I kind of write it down in a cute, nice way. I kind of give you different paragraphs about how I was feeling. It's real cute. I'm a writer. I'm a writer here. Okay. So definitely get into my Letterbox, check that out. But I'm here today to talk to you about everything I felt about the movie, what I liked, what I didn't like, suggesting if you should see it, if you shouldn't see it. So definitely strap in, tune in. Now, let's get into it. First, I'll start off with no spoilers. I won't spoil the movie for you. Okay. So, my thoughts on this movie are that I liked it. I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was very creative and I felt like it was very outside of the box. A lot of things that Robert Eggers did were new to me. And maybe it's not new in the film world. I don't know. But it was new to me as someone who isn't deep within film just yet. I'm starting to like get there. And to me, this was very, very new. The way he told the story, the decisions he made with the characters and how to present them and kind of how to explain some of the concepts without them within the movie, he kind of decided to do it in a very different way, cinematography wise, and a very different way, storytelling wise. And I don't know. It kind of took me aback at the beginning. At the beginning, I was just like, "Ooh, like I've never seen one of his films, and I don't watch a lot of different types of films just yet." So when I'm watching it, I'm like, "Ooh, this is very different." And I didn't love it at first. At first, I was like, "Ugh, I don't know what this is. I can't catch on. I can't understand why he's taking this direction. I'm getting confused. Is he talking about that? Like, what is this supposed to do?" So I was just a lot. I was very in my head as like a newcomer to this type of film or this type of filmography. So for me, it felt a little bit weird. So for the girls who are not that deep into film, and for the girls who are just going to the theater just to go to the theater to watch something, you might not like it off the bat. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't recommend this to my friends who barely even watch scripted TV shows and they mostly watch reality TV, or my friends who aren't really into film like that and they only like the action, shit like that. I wouldn't recommend this to most of my friends in like day to day life. I would recommend this to a film nerd or like a film bro. At least me personally, y'all have y'all own recommendations, how you feel. But me personally, if someone's like, "Ooh, what movie should I see this year?" and they're my friend who doesn't watch movies, I'm gonna say Wicked or The Challengers, or I'm gonna just say something a little bit more, I feel, appealing to the general public. To me, this movie came across as something that has to be or that should be respected film wise. It's like you should respect the cinematography. It's beautiful. But I know friends who don't give a fuck about the cinematography. It's something that's like you should respect the way he told the story. He told it so beautifully. It's like stuff like that, which I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily care for. They kind of just want to be entertained. And this was entertaining. I was very entertained, but not in a typical way. It was very atypical in the way that it entertained me. And I don't think that it's going to work for everyone in the world. So for me, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily suggest it to everyone in the world. Now, if you're very open minded, not even very, if you're a little bit open-minded or you kind of don't care or you don't have a preference or things like that don't bother you and you're able to just go in and enjoy something for what it is and you don't think about comparing it or anything, I think it'll be fine. I think you can go in and you can enjoy this movie. And even people who I wouldn't recommend it to, it's not that I don't think they would enjoy it. Some people would enjoy this movie even if they're not a film buff. It's just that's not going to be my first go-to to recommend it because it's so niche and different, at least for me. That's how I felt. So when I went into the movie, I was like, damn, this is very interesting the way he's telling the story. And he was kind of like showcasing situations that the characters were going through in a very different way, film wise, or I don't know. He just made very specific decisions, and I'll get more into it when I get into spoilers. And those decisions were kind of making me feel like, okay, where are you going with this? And then the beginning of the movie, I felt like at first, if you take the beginning of the movie and you separate it from everything else, I was getting lost in where he wanted to take it. It wasn't until we kind of got to the middle of the movie and then towards the end where everything flowed very, very well. And I mean, very, very well. It was like at the beginning, I was like, okay, girl, where are you going? Where are you taking me? You're finna take me for a ride and I don't know where I'm going. You want me to strap in my seatbelt, but I don't know where I'm going. I don't like not knowing where I'm going. I want to know where I'm going. But by the end of the movie, it's like you knew where you were going the whole time. It's just the way that he told the story was very different and intricate. And I loved it. I really did like it. I fucked with it real heavy. So by the end of the movie, I was in love. But while I was going through it, I had so many different feelings of like anguish and anxiety and da 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 da. And then when you get into the tea, that's how he wanted you to feel. So it works very well. But at the moment, I was like, ooh, I don't like this, you know? But by the end of the movie, I was in love. He took me by the horns. Like, I loved it. And I feel like he was able to weave all of the things that we saw in the beginning throughout the movie to really make it make sense, because we would get like a scene of one character doing something and then we'd get a scene of another character and it's like, okay, what are you going to do and how is this going to wrap back to the other one? And I don't know, it just at first it seems like it's not going anywhere, but eventually gets there. So I really enjoyed that. And at first I didn't enjoy it, so it's like kind of two, it's like a pro and a con, because I was like, oh wait, and then I was like, oh okay. But yes, one of the main things that I couldn't help but notice was the cinematography. There were like shots of like the mountains, and mind you, this is set in, I don't know what time period it is. I'm not good with time periods, but it's set in an olden day time period where they're wearing pantaloons and they're wearing these big ass braziers and the girls are wearing corsets. And it's that time period, whatever the fuck that was. And we're seeing like these beautiful, gorgeous shots of like the mountains or the forest or a big trail or a big city. And it's like, oh my God, it looks so, I don't, it's enamoring. And it's weird because the whole ambiance of the movie, he killed it on the ambiance because it's always like not nighttime, but there's always overcast. So it's always like dim and dark. And then it's like always this somber, wintry feel to it. And then it kind of matches with the scenery. Like it's scenery that if you saw it in the daytime, it would be like a gorgeous green field with lilies. But seeing it with this ambiance, it's like, you know, dull looking, but in a beautiful way. I just cannot explain it. But baby, the cinematography was there. And then the way that he would use the camera work in this movie was amazing. There was like one scene, so random. It was like, I don't even remember what was occurring in the scene, but it's like he's showing you, we're like panning through a room and then we get to the wall and then we go up the wall and we go around and then we end up like at the bed where everyone is at. And it's like, stuff like that for me is always so interesting and fun. I don't know. He just had a lot of fun with the camera work. A lot of the scenery was very beautiful. The cinematography was very beautiful. The sets were beautiful. Bitch, everything was eating. Everything was eating. And then Nosferatu, what's his name? Bill Skarsgård. His costume was tea. Like I did not know that was Bill Skarsgård. It was to the point where I had to Google. I was like, wait, is this character the Nosferatu guy that they were talking about? Because this don't look shit like Bill Skarsgård, and I thought Bill Skarsgård was playing him. So I had to Google it 5 fucking times, and it was, but they did so good on this nigga's makeup that I couldn't even fucking tell it was him. Ate that shit up easily. And but speaking of that, let's slide into the motherfucking characters. Bill Skarsgård, great, amazing actor. If y'all don't know who he is, let me give y'all a little background. I know him from It. It is one of my favorite horror movies in the world. I used to watch the original when I grew up. When the new one came out, I had to watch that. It was T, of course. I really need to go see that again because that shit eats. And he is Pennywise on It. So he eats it the fuck up. He played in The Crow just this year as well. I didn't watch that, so I don't know how it went, but the Crow is definitely his little aesthetic. And then also he, of course, is Nosferatu. And just from knowing about those alone, I can already tell he eats it the fuck up. But specifically this performance, like I thought it was Nosferatu. It never get I thought it was Count Orlok. Orlok. Okay, bitch. It didn't even give Nosferatu. It gave Count Orlok. And then it didn't give Bill Skarsgård. It gave Count Orlok. I didn't know who the fuck that was. I was like, who's this villain? So he ate it up. He like perfectly played the role of like this vampire, mystical esque, evil energy creature who's a little bit spiritual. Like he just gave that essence. Everything about him gave the essence of what I would have wanted from this type of character. And he really ate it up. His acting was phenomenal down to the motherfucking bone. Like he killed it. He killed it. He killed it. He killed it. Lily Depp Rose. No. Lily Rose Depp. Yes. Who is Johnny Depp's daughter? First of all, I think I've heard her name before. But I didn't connect the fact that she was Johnny Depp's daughter. Like I assumed she was, but it wasn't like an immediate. Yeah, that's definitely her. Gorgeous face. She definitely got her daddy's cheekbones. Okay, because the cheekbones are killer, bitch. But but yes. Ooh, and she's really young. She's 25. I'm saying really young, like she's fucking 5 years old. But she's 25 years old, which kind of explains what I was gonna get into with her character. I'll get more deep into it in the spoilers, but her acting is phenomenal, but not but because it doesn't take away from the phenomenal acting. But I did notice that she seemed it seemed I could tell she was acting at certain moments in the movie. It wasn't overbearing. It was only a little bit, and it was only at certain points, kind of at the beginning of the movie. But her acting was very interesting, and I think it makes sense that she's younger. I don't know, because she's been acting for a while. From what I see here, she has a lot of different acting roles. None of them have been like something I've seen, and a lot of them don't seem like, big productions like this. This seems like the biggest thing she's been in. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know the girl. But what I noticed was like there was a moment at the beginning and I was like, okay, her acting seems like fresh. And I didn't realize how young she was. She is extremely young, and clearly she hasn't acted in that many different things. But it was like a positive thing that I saw her at the beginning, and she had like certain moments where I was noticing that, because by the end of the movie, her acting performance was blew me out of the fucking water. So I was like, at the beginning, when I had that one moment and I was like, okay, she seems a little like, I don't know, new to this. By the end of the movie, I was like, damn, she ain't new to shit. Like she knows exactly what the fuck she's doing. And it was like, it made me feel even more impressed with her performance when I noticed, like, I was like, oh, okay, she seemed like a little new to this acting shit. But no, she ended up killing it by the end of the movie. It was very interesting. I had a very interesting journey with her character because I was like, okay, she seems new to acting. But yes, no, I loved it. At the end of the day, I loved it. It just was noticeable that for me at the beginning or at certain moments. I don't know. I feel like I'm being mean. I don't want to be mean or rude or disregard her acting because it was so amazing and she did a good job. But I don't know. I did notice that. And I wanted to point out that I did notice that because, it's true. The truth will set you free. But I honestly did love her acting, and I loved her performance as her character throughout the movie. She had a lot of like rough things she had to do. And I feel like she definitely achieved making me and the audience feel like she was experiencing those things genuinely. So I appreciate that. Same thing with Nicholas Holt, who I also did not really know. Nicholas Holt was in Warm Bodies. Oh my God, where he played a vampire. I actually loved Warm Bodies growing up, and I actually remember his character and I remember his face. It was funny because in this movie, I was like, he's slightly familiar. Who is he? And I think that's where I remembered him from. He was also in The Menu, which I had seen, but not really. He was also in X-Men First Class. I don't remember who he was. He's going to be in Superman next year. I will be tuned in for that. So yeah, he's been in some other shit, but I don't necessarily know exactly who he was in that other shit. But he eats it up. He did a good job. He did an amazing job. Same thing as Lily Rose with the making me feel what the character was feeling. Like he was going through some shit. And I definitely believed he was going through some shit for sure. I think he killed his performance. He was amazing as well. We also saw Aaron Taylor Johnson for a little now for the gays and the girls. Check me out on TikTok, my personal TikTok. The link is in the description. I think it's in my link tree. Check out my personal TikTok because I gave y'all a little tip on Aaron Taylor Johnson. He was looking good sometimes. He was definitely looking good. But anyways, his performance was amazing. There was like a big moment for him. He made me feel it. Like I almost cried watching him perform. I was like, "Oh, you're making me feel this." There were some other characters. Emma Corrin played a very important character. I don't know who that is. No shade. She was in Deadpool. Who? Who the fuck was she in Deadpool? Emma Corrin? Girl, hold on. Cassandra Nova. Cassandra Nova. Who the fuck is Cassandra Nova? Oh! Professor X? I mean, Cassandra Nova? I mean, hold the fuck on. That was her. She played the main villain in Deadpool. Wow. Her character was fun. Her character was very interesting. She was like kind of a side character, but I really liked her. I liked what she brought. And this movie had like a few different side characters. And at first I was kind of like trying to keep up, but by the time you get the hang of it, it like starts to feel really really good for the movie. And the movie kind of forces you to get to the hang of it. It starts showing like all of the side characters, but then by the end they kind of bring them all together, and so it's like, oh, okay. Or by the middle, really, they kind of bring them all together. And it's like, oh, okay, that was the point. Like they all end up relying on each other towards the end and the climax of the movie. So it makes sense. But loved Emma Corrin's character. Willem Dafoe killed it. Willem Dafoe killed it. I think this was an interesting role for him because a lot of the time he plays villains. And in this role, he wasn't a villain. And there were moments where him with his character that I loved. And then there was a moment I wasn't sure that I liked the decision of it. I don't know how I felt. We'll get into it with spoilers. But yeah, the cast killed it. The cast really ate it up. Great acting, great performances, great cinematography. Don't necessarily remember the score. I think there was like moments at the beginning where I was focused on the score and I really enjoyed what they were doing. But by the time we got to the middle and the end of the movie, I was like focused on what was happening within the story that I wasn't even listening to the score. But I don't have negative feelings about it. I remember having positive feelings about it at the beginning. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to rewatch it for that. But yeah, a lot of great different elements. I liked the story by the end. It takes some time to kind of grasp where it's going, but other than that, I don't have any negative notes. So I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, which is like a 9 out of 10. And I'm gonna stick beside that. I definitely think it was a great movie. And it just comes down to, are you willing to give it a chance? Or if you give it a chance, are you willing to really see the vision of where he was going? And I hate to say that because I don't want to make it seem like if you don't like the movie, it's because you didn't see the vision. That's not true. If you don't like the movie, you cannot like this movie. I think it's very justifiable to watch this movie and come out and not like it. It's just I did. A lot of other people did. I was fucking with it. And I do think it's niche. Like, I think it's different. So I'm not going to be surprised if people didn't like it because he's like pushing. I don't know if he's pushing boundaries. I don't know shit about film that much. But to me, it felt like he was pushing some of the boundaries for the way that stories are usually told within film. But those are my thoughts without spoiling the movie. I'm finna start spoiling the movie. So if you haven't seen it and you want to see it, stop the video here, stop the podcast here, go watch it and then come back. Okay. Thank you. Mwah. Now, girl, so many thoughts. So many thoughts, first of all. Let's just talk about the story because the storyline was very interesting. At the beginning, when Nicholas Holt's character, his name is Thomas. Thomas is like married to Lily Rose Depp's character. Ellen, Thomas and Ellen are fucking, and they're with each other. They're married. They're together. And Ellen has been having dreams since she was a little girl. These nightmares, blah 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 blah. And then Thomas is like, okay, I need to go on this adventure because I need to get some money. And going on the adventure is basically going to get Nosferatu to move closer to their town. And Ellen kind of knows that, and she's trying to convince him not to do it. Boom. So we get all of that information at the beginning, and it's like while I'm watching, I'm like, okay, y'all are giving me a lot. I'm trying to like read between the lines because they're not explicitly saying any of that. And so we're reading between the lines, and then Thomas starts to go on this, in a way, quotations, adventure. And at a point, I'm like, okay, is this going to be like more of an adventure story? Are we going to see him go all the way back with Nosferatu and they're going to hop from town to town? Like, I couldn't tell what direction the movie was going in, I guess, genre-wise. Like, I'm like, is this about to be about him going on an adventure? Because we see him like stop at this town. We see him have to like He loses his horse. He's like seeing what's going on in this mysterious town. And then he gets to Nosferatu, and it's like, oh, this is a long, windy road he has to go in. It's like, I think they used elements from adventure movies and kind of placed it in this point of the movie. So it kind of made me feel like that's what we were going to get. And now that I'm done watching it, I love the choice because I don't know if this is what he was doing, but for me, it genuinely felt like he was making it feel like some sort of an adventure. Like the shots he would show, it's like he'd show the long, or he'd show Thomas, the character Thomas, in the forest. And then he'd show this big cliff that he has to walk down, and he shows the cliff. And then he shows these big mountains of the new city he enters. And it's like, these are all elements that people put in adventure movies, or that people put in movies where you have to travel for a while. And so it just felt like, oh, okay, he put all those elements in, and this is what it's going to be about. But, or like, that he wasn't going to get there for a while. So it just, I don't know, it felt almost adventure at that point in the movie. And then by the time he got to Nosferatu's castle, he kind of shifted the tone of the movie. Not the tone, but I guess the way he was presenting to the movie then became a more sinister and psychological thriller type of situation, because he would have scenes where Thomas is like laying in bed, and then he'd fall asleep and he'd wake up laying on the ground, or he's talking to Nosferatu and Nosferatu is like, turn around, bitch. And then when he turns around, he's turning around and he ends up waking up in the bed. It's like very psychological, and all of the elements that people use in psychological thrillers, where the character is thinks they're in this place and then they wake up and they're a totally different place. They're in such a haze and such a daze. He's like literally dazed the entire time he's at this castle with Nosferatu, and he doesn't know what he's doing the entire time. And it's like, ooh, now you're giving us all of these new movie elements. But at this point, I was like, damn, I kind of just watched him, quotations, go on an adventure a little bit, this mini adventure to get there. And then at the beginning of the movie, I was seeing what was going on with Ellen, Rose Depp's character, and she was doing some stuff, and we kept flashing to her. And I'm like, okay, but we need to focus on this psychological shit that's happening here with Nosferatu. So at this moment, it kind of felt like a lot of different things at once. I'm like, okay, so what are we doing? Where are we going to go? And then we spent not a long time at Nosferatu's castle, but we spent some time there. And a part of me still doesn't understand. I think it was beneficial in showing us what Nosferatu can do and what abilities he has as kind of an entity. And if we didn't have this time at the castle, it would have fell flat with the extremity of how Nosferatu really is and how big of a threat he really is. We definitely needed this scene, but I also feel like it felt long because he went on this journey that was, not that long. And then he was at Nosferatu's castle for a good minute until they kind of came back to the city. And it's like, it felt like the whole purpose was for him to get to Lily Rose Depp, and this kind of felt like a delay. Have y'all seen the Odyssey, or if you've read the Odyssey, which they are going to make a remake of, or they're going to make a movie adaptation of next year or 2 years from now? So that's very interesting. But anyways, it felt like the Odyssey, where the character Odysseus, he was going on an adventure, and he had one goal, and he would get sidetracked by a whole totally different goal. And in this moment, it just felt like him and Nosferatu, it felt like they were sidetracked in a way. I don't know, because they were having this like back and forth rumble really quickly. And I think it represented a lot because they were kind of both going for, Nosferatu wanted Lily Rose Depp, which is his wife. So it's like, you're going for my wife, but I need to get you before you get to her. And we kind of saw this development within the two characters. And I actually loved the time he spent here. This was like one of my favorite parts of the movie. It just, in the grand scheme of things, it almost felt like, okay, this is like, let's get to the point of the movie. Like, let's drive the movie forward. And for a minute, it kind of felt like we're going down this line towards the goal, and then we're going in a circle while he's at the castle, and then we get back on track. And I feel like going in that circle felt a little weird, but that's kind of what I was saying earlier. He had a very interesting creative direction for this movie. And I feel like the decision he made with this part of the movie to make it feel kind of like this battle between the two in a very psychological way, I felt like it was smart. and it gave the essence of Nosferatu. And without it, like I said, it wouldn't have really felt like such a good movie. Like, I like that he made that decision, but also I feel like that decision goes against the laws of storytelling. Like, you should always kind of be driving the story forward. And not to say that it wasn't driving the story forward, it was. There were important things in that moment that we kind of needed. He gave him the locket, and the locket is what told Nosferatu he needs to go get Lily Rose Depp, but he kind of already knew that. I think that was my thing. Like, Nosferatu was obviously already trying to move to the town to get to Lily Rose Depp's character. So I don't see what the kind of hoopla was in this moment. I feel like all he had to really do was put Nicholas Holt's character Thomas under the spell, make him sign the paper, and then go and then move forward. All of that other hoopla, I don't see how that was necessary. Honestly, he really could have just left, and I think it was only implemented into the movie to make kind of like to give us more of an explanation of his power and his prowess, and kind of make this tug and pull relationship between him and Nicholas Holt, which I get and I love, but I don't know, it just felt different. It didn't feel like any other movie I've ever experienced, which, like I said, I love, I appreciate it. It's just was interesting. I don't know. I don't It's not bad. It just was interesting, and I really did like that he did that, but it kind of threw me off. So at this point in the movie, I'm like, where the fuck are we going? And what are we doing? And why are we, in a way, I'm like, why are we here? And we kept flashing back. And as we're flashing back to Lily Rose Depp's character, Ellen, and their friends, Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is Friedrich, and Anna, we were flashing back to them. And Lily Rose Depp's character is kind of going crazy. She's having a lot of spasms, shit going down over there. And I'm like, okay, and what the fuck is this? Like, I just wanted them to start moving towards figuring something out about all of that. And for a while, I was like, we're not. But eventually, he's reunited with Lily Rose Depp's character. Thomas and Ellen are back together, and they're back in the hometown, and so is Nosferatu. And then there's this plague that starts, and that's when I finally felt like, okay, now I see where the movie is moving towards. We had like his minion, who was the same person who told Thomas to go find Nosferatu to bring him back here. He ends up being Nosferatu's minion, and that kind of helped me understand. I feel like it just took a while for me to finally grasp, okay, this is where the movie's going. When Nosferatu gets here, there's this plague that's happening. He needs to take Lily Rose Depp's character, and he's gonna try to get her to marry him. And it's like they were hinting at those things. They were like dropping those hints there, here and there, but I feel like there was a lot of other stuff going on to where I was kind of losing track of it. But by the time where they explained it, everything prior felt like it made sense. Everything just fell into place. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is great. It's falling into place. Boom, we're here. And then we finally got to the end of the movie, and they fight Nosferatu, and they kind of figure out what's going on, and they know what they have to do. And Willem Dafoe's character, which is the professor, he figures out that what Nosferatu really wants, and the only way to stop this plague, is if Ellen, aka Lily Rose Depp's character, agrees to marrying Nosferatu. And he tricks Thomas, the main character, into, you know, falling for this trap to go try to kill Nosferatu, when the whole time Nosferatu is going to Lily Rose Depp's character and getting her to confess her love and, you know, allow her to take him with her so they can end the plague. And that was an interesting choice for his character. I wish I knew more about Willem Dafoe's character, because that's where I was like earlier, I don't know if I love the direction they went with it, because he seemed so heroic at first. He was always trying to help with what was going on with Lily Rose. You know, that was honestly, it was probably my fault for thinking he was being heroic, but it felt heroic. It felt like he was genuinely trying to, I don't know, help. And not that he wasn't, because at the end of the day, he did end the plague. And I think everyone else dying trumped what Thomas was talking about, this personal attachment to his wife. So he was willing to kind of sacrifice it. But the way that he lied to Thomas, and then when they went to Nosferatu's castle, he was like, we have to burn it down. And then he burns it down, and he just sits there and he's like laughing while it's burning. He's like, we burned it. Ah. That part confused me. I'm like, is he a crazy professor? Is he a psycho professor? And I get that he swindled Thomas, but why is he kind of gloating about it? He was kind of gloating about swindling Thomas. I felt like that part didn't make sense. It seemed like he would have been apologetic, or he would have been like, dang, I'm sorry. He did not seem to care at all. He didn't give a fuck. He just did it, played in this man's face, and then kind of laughed about it and moved forward. And it's like, okay, what kind of person are you? And I like that they did that because it made me think. I'm talking about it right now, but I don't know. It just didn't seem consistent with his character. I was like, girl, what the fuck? Like, what's happening here? So that was a little bit weird for me, but it is what it is. Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, he has this family with his wife, and it's his wife and his two daughters. Girl, killing the daughters was crazy. Killing the daughters was crazy. Nosferatu killing the daughters was crazy. Like, when I tell you my heart sank, I was like, no. So he killed the daughters and he killed the wife. And then when they went to the funeral, and I was like, not the funeral. I was literally about to bawl my eyes out. And I do not cry at movies. When them little girls got killed, murdered, bitch, I was finna cry. And then when Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, he went to the tomb and he just couldn't bear it. He just couldn't bear it. So he went to where they were resting. And he was like, he had his hands on his kids. He was like, he literally was like, my daughters. And it's like you could hear the pain in his voice. Man, that man was acting. At that moment, that was his real life daughters at that moment. He said, my daughters. Like, ooh, not your daughters. But no, that hurt so bad, bitch. I was finna fucking bawl my eyes out. He killed the performance. He ate it up. And I loved his character. Loved his character. Very complex. Obviously, the professor was also complex. I wasn't getting it. I need to rewatch for the professor. Probably will like him on a rewatch. But Friedrich, which is Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, loved him because there was this moment. Oh, and it was like, oh, I love this. There was this moment. Because while Thomas was out on his adventure finding Nosferatu, Friedrich had promised him he would take care of Lily Rose Depp. So he's taking care of her while she's literally going through exorcist ass nightmares, bitch. She's fucking like she's dying, literally. And he has to have the stress of that, plus his family, plus his best friend is missing. And he's like carrying all of this weight. And he's just trying to deal with it. He's trying to deal with it, get it done with, move forward. And first of all, I love that. Good man. That's a good man. Okay. Taking care of everybody. Thank you. I need that in my life. But also, after all of that's done, Ellen has a moment where she's trying to ask him for his help. Lily Rose Depp is trying to ask him for his help after Thomas has came back, and she's like, can you help me? You have to help us. Nosferatu, he's this entity, it's real, he's trying to kill us. And he's kind of dismissing her, and he's like, girl, I need you to get out of my house. I'm sorry, whatever you got going on, that entity shit, get that out of my house. You and Thomas gotta go. I'm sorry, love y'all, but I'm gonna love y'all from a distance, which was so fucking real, mind you. But she responds and she's like, why do you hate me? And I was like, oh, I love this scene. Like, it felt random, but in a good way. It felt realistically random. You know how, like, real people have, like, a thought about someone, like, the whole time you think that this person doesn't really like you. And if something big happens, you kind of let that out and you just ask them, and you're like, so what's this beef you have with me? I'm sorry, I've been trying to hold it in, but I can't. It literally felt so real. It genuinely felt like she felt like he didn't like her this whole time, and she called it out. And to the audience, it's almost like, ooh, is this true? Does he not like her? Like, what's this tea? But it's like, it was just a feeling she had. And I feel like Lily Rose Depp delivered it very, very good. And I think it was extremely good character development for both of the characters to have this kind of like real argument moment of them, because it wasn't necessary. He didn't have to put that in the movie, but because he did, it made both of the characters feel so real and so raw. And then it just added to, I feel like, the development of how I cared about them succeeding. I wanted all of them to succeed by the end of the movie. And this was a moment that made me feel that. But I love his character because he was real. He was like, girl, I ain't never said some shit like that. And I see what she was saying. She was using the example of, you just tied me the fuck up. You didn't care. And he was basically like, I was caring for you for this whole time. What do you mean? Why do I hate you? And I still don't know if he really does hate her or not. Now that I'm thinking about it, because while I was watching, I was trying to think, does he hate her? Like, does he kind of have beef with her? Or was he just stressed in the moment? Is she being dramatic? It was like very interesting. But I loved that. And I did love his character. And I loved how he cared for the other characters within the movie. That was very, very interesting. Love that for them. So yes, the characters were great. Very well fleshed out. Even like Ellen, Lily Rose Depp's character, the way that she interacted with Nosferatu, it was so weird. It was like this tug and pull. It was so gracefully weird. It's like she had a sexual they had sexual tension, and it's good on both her character and Nosferatu's character. Is like it's making them more deep because Nosferatu isn't just this evil entity that's murdering people. He really just wants a wife, which is an interesting motivation, and he wants it to be her. And there's this like tug and pull because like there's a sexual chemistry weirdly to them, and they're like almost a little bit flirting, but also she very clearly does not want to be taken away by this evil dark spirit. And then by the end, when she's deciding to, I guess, quotation, save everyone by accepting being his wife, it's kind of like, are you trying to save everyone, or do you low-key actually want to just take this position as this man's wife? But by the end of it, I'm like, okay, she ends up, you know, what's it called, seducing him. After he accepts being her wife, she seduces him all night until it's daytime, and in the daytime he can't survive. So by the time it's daytime, she's been seducing him the whole night, and she's like, keep going, daddy, all of that. Well, not not that, but low-key that, like literally low-key that, it was giving sexual. But anyways, to keep going. And so by the morning time, she's dead because he done drained the bitch, and he's dead because she allowed it to continue to go until the morning time. So part of me is like, okay, she did want to save the rest of the world because she enticed him for so long on purpose while being under his spell. I don't know. Very interesting. But by the end, he's dead and she's dead, and she kind of sacrificed herself for the greater good of the rest of the state because everyone was dying around her. Her husband was going to die if she didn't accept his invitation. It was so interesting with that situation. And then the little ultimatum that Nosferatu gave her, it's so weird because once again, it's like almost felt like a different type of movie at the beginning because the ultimatum came near the middle-ish end of the movie. Like literally near the end of the movie, Nosferatu came to her and was like, I'm gonna kill people you love each of these nights. You have 3 nights to accept that you're mine, and then by the 3rd night, I'm killing your husband. And it's like, this seems like something that would typically be at the beginning of a movie, but it came at the end of the movie. And it was almost like, oh, I kind of wish I had this intention at the beginning so I would have known everyone's intention more easily. But then again, that's kind of too easy, you know? But a part of me felt like, okay, I like that they didn't do the typical thing that a movie would do and just give it to us at the beginning. But also at this point in the movie, it just felt late. It just felt weird. It felt weird in a, there's no other word to use but weird because it wasn't bad. I didn't think it was necessarily great. I just felt it was different. It wasn't a negative thing. It just was a different thing. Like usually we wouldn't get this ultimatum towards the end of the movie where it's like you have 3 nights to do this. This is something you get at the beginning of the horror movie. So for them to do it in this way, it was so good, but it just felt like a totally different type of movie at that point. Because at that point, now it felt like, oh, okay, this really is a horror movie where he's killing people every night and the deaths are about to speed up. And then while we were watching the rest of the movie, it wasn't that many deaths. It wasn't that much intensity. There wasn't this time crunch. It was kind of like a different vibe. And then the vibe started to change towards the end. And I think he really did a good job at layering different types of energies throughout the movie, and it kind of culminated into this one big thing. Like we had this adventure energy, this psychological thriller energy, we had this horror energy, we had this time crunch energy, all within the same movie. And then we kind of get this full culmination. But as you're going through the journey, you kind of just have to go with the ride because by the end of it, it's worth it. And by the end of the movie, I was in love. I was like, damn, he killed that. I loved that. Like I understood everything. Everything was wrapped up. Everybody's story was told. And then boom, we were done. And it's like, yes, baby. Thank you. He just told it differently. He told it interestingly. And for me, that's impressive. He was able to kind of push the narrative in a different and more unique way than usual. And then by the end of it, I was still able to enjoy it, understand it, like it, all of that. And I think the way he told this story was the way Nosferatu made Thomas feel in the castle. It was this lack of control. It was the lack of consistency. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're at. You don't know what's happening in the story. What is this about? And then by the end of it, bitch, you're dead. And I think that's what the movie gave. It literally gave that same energy. Damn, where are we at? Damn, where are we going? Damn, what is this? What's that? How is this going to end up? And then by the end of it, boom, the movie's finished. And I just feel like he reflected, he mirrored the way Nosferatu was making the characters feel within the movie, outside of the movie with the viewers as they watched it. He killed it, y'all. He ate it up. Oh my God. 10 out of 10. He ate it up. He ate it up. He ate it up. He ate it up. I'm gonna still give it a 4.5. The 0.5, because the little tip, I already told y'all a little tidbit. So I'm gonna still give it a 4.5. But honestly, he ate it up. It's a good ass movie. I would recommend it just with a grain of salt. Just with a grain of salt. Because if you're it could be too different for everybody. Everyone's not gonna love it. So there you go. But I still would recommend it. I liked it too much to not recommend it. Honestly, I would definitely say watch. A lot of pros. I got into most of what I wanted to talk about. If I forgot anything, shit, I might bring it up again, once again. But this was a great movie. Definitely get into it. Definitely loved it. Boom. Those are my thoughts, y'all. And thank you for tuning in as I tune the fuck in. That's all I got to say. And baby, we out.